I really do miss my leg. It was a
good leg.
Don't take your legs for granted. They're really awesome. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Creative Businessmen. This is our 100th episode, so if you guys have been with us since the beginning, we really appreciate it. If not, then welcome. And if you enjoy the show, be sure to like and subscribe. We really appreciate your support. Today it's going to be me and Daniel. We're going to talk about the studio a little bit, maybe discuss some of the stuff we've got in the works, answer some questions, and just hopefully have some good conversation. So here you go.
So the first question comes from me. We'll just fucking stand up. So I've watched almost every episode you guys have done. Because we were friends before I got over here, and then once I joined you. But one of the things that I think of when I'm like, for new viewers who don't know who you guys are, like, what do you do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what do you do? I know you're a business consultant, you own businesses, but as much as you feel comfortable telling people who are watching, like, what do you actually do? Like, what are the jobs?
So, well, I guess we could go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Briefly, a brief
I think I was
synopsis.
5 pounds 4 ounces, maybe. I can't remember. I made up for
You're
it.
smaller than me.
I made up for it.
I think I was 6 pounds.
I think
got an early start.
I'm pretty sure Dad smoked. That's
It was the 80s, dude.
Everybody smoked. The doctor smoked.
Yeah, they smoked in the doctor's office.
Yeah.
during delivery, I think. Yeah.
How healthy is my baby going to be?
It's funny. Yeah, which beginning? You want to start?
Yeah, it was just a few cigarettes from being perfectly healthy.
That's hilarious.
You mean start or you got it?
Yeah, start it up.
All
I'm
right,
curious where you're starting at. I don't even want to guide you. I'm just curious where you're going to start.
I mean, I think the entrepreneurial spirit started. It's been there my whole life. I know when I was, as far as I can remember, I've always been creative, and I remember being 5 years old and drawing, like making drawings and putting price tags on the drawings and selling them to family members. And then a friend of mine, Eric, shout out to Eric, when we were in probably 4th grade, we started like our own little school store. We had shoe boxes and we had office supplies that we would take to school with us, pencils and erasers and cool stuff. And we'd sell them to other kids, and we had our own receipt books. And then at the end of every week, we would get together and tally the money together and our receipts and restock. So it was kind of fun. So I've always been interested in business and creativity. Always got awards in school for art and stuff like that. And then, but then, growing up poor, I needed money. I didn't want to be poor as an adult. I didn't want to go through the same shit my parents went through. So, and even as a kid, I thought, well, if other people can do it, I can do it too. It's not.
How old were you when you realized that you guys were poor? Because I was in my 30s when I found out.
I realized I was poor probably in middle school. I didn't realize I was in poverty until I was in college. And then in sociology class, we were discussing the poverty level and different classes. And I was like, oh.
They started describing you?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, we were definitely under the poverty level when I was really young. Now it got a little better as I got older. But my parents were always blue collar, so it never got great. And but as an adult, I was always ambitious too. And I started working when I was in a formal job when I was 14, and always had employment after that. When I was 22, I started my first business. It was a flooring business, a tile business. Me and a friend started that. We did that for a couple of years until he had to move away, and then I actually went back to school and got a degree in advertising and graphic design, and started another business. It was an online consignments business. We did a lot of stuff on eBay, and then I've had other business partners through the years too, and we've owned precious metals business and restaurants, bars. I was partners in a winery.
And now are you more towards the consulting only, or?
Yeah, so now I've sold most of my companies. I work mostly with other companies, some of Daniel's companies and some of his partners' companies, and we'll help people start their whole business, start from scratch. So, setting up an LLC or an S Corp or however they want to structure it. I do a lot of corporate structure work.
There's all structure stuff.
Yeah, and then and also I do product development, pricing, setting up margins, developing products. Sometimes deal with China on new products. We've worked with people in the vape industry, essential oils, really anything retail. Any business needs, I can typically help people structure their business and figure out some kind of a management structure. Sometimes it's just management structure. Sometimes it's maybe someone that has a few retail businesses and they need to figure out ways to be more efficient or better run their business, or maybe their pricing's not right. So we do a lot of business solutions. If you don't do this type of work, it's hard to really, I guess, directly understand it. But
Yeah.
I think my advice for other people that want to own their own business or want to be entrepreneurs is, if you're young, try to. I think education is a good idea, but it's not necessarily a requirement. It depends on what your goals are. If you want to go into a specific profession, you need the education to do that, because there are entrepreneurs that are doctors or dentists or lawyers and stuff like that. But if you just want to start a specific business that you don't necessarily need a degree for, then you just need to find a way to generate enough income to invest or save up so you can actually start building your own company. And you may have to start doing things that you don't enjoy, like start with a smaller business that's more difficult. Try to find something that you can invest in that allows you to duplicate your efforts, so it's not taking all your time. Like if you want to start a restaurant and you're a chef and you start a restaurant, then your goal should be to generate enough revenue so that you're not tied down to that one restaurant, so you can open other restaurants and be a restaurateur. Unless you just want to be a chef and you enjoy that work and you just want that job.
I've heard you guys describe certain type of businesses. If you are a chef and you open a restaurant and you are the full-time chef, then you just got yourself a job. And
Right.
You own a job.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you on that question, Daniel,
So, early on we go way back. Some of the similar things, but I'll give you. And I'm not suggesting any of these things, but and I've said before, going to a local gas station and buying adult magazines and ripping out each page and selling them for $1 a page, to going to the health department and getting free condoms, I think 25 a week, and selling those for $1 a piece. And I just was very creative. Like, I tried to find any way I could. There was one point I didn't like doing my own homework, so I stopped doing this. But there was one point where I would do other people's homework for money.
Yeah.
I was in middle school, but I'm like, man, I love to write, and in 6th grade and 7th grade, I remember this, but the two problems happened. One, writing is very time consuming. Two, I had to intentionally write with errors.
right.
And so at a lower level than I wrote, which there's some part of me that did not like that a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't even so much that I was doing someone else's work. It was that I was doing someone else's work and it wasn't to the best of my ability.
Yep.
So it really sort of irritated me. And then third was Miss Cranford confronting me about writing other people's.
Yeah. Why is that dummy getting an A all of a
Oh,
sudden?
he got a B. He got a B.
Yeah.
And she was impressed that I could write the same paper from multiple points of view.
Yeah.
Because that's what I would do. I would just change the point of view, right? I would argue the other side of it. I would discuss the other side of it. Or if we were talking about ethos in my paper, I would, I would just shift it so I was talking about a different thing. But anyway, that was one way I made money, right? So
That's a similar trait you have to have with writing comedy for other people.
Right.
It's, being able to write from other people's perspective is the difference between it being good and not. It's a real skill.
That makes sense. Yeah. So, I mean, just very entrepreneurial. And people, everywhere on Instagram and everywhere on social media, everybody's an entrepreneur. And I think it's laughable. It's not a badge of honor. It's what it really means is to me, is that you will lack consistency in your life if the measure is a widget, a service, or some physical product or retail product or some digital product. It's very unlikely that it'll be the same service or product that you start with that'll be the same one that you finish with when you pass away, right? Yeah. So you basically, as an entrepreneur, what that really means is that you've got some great deal of flexibility in the products or services that you're going to offer for the rest of your life. And so when we talk about all the things we've done, like, people say, well, what do you do? Well, I mean, I guess at this point, what I do is I have a specific skill set and a specific understanding of the way that business works in general, and I can apply that to any widget, to any item, to any service, to any product. And so now I have to look at, I don't want to own a job, right? I like to be able to duplicate efforts, and so if that's the case, I need to look for someone with an expertise that I don't have, and maybe they want to own the job, right? So to them, they will call themselves an entrepreneur, and that's fine. They'll own a job. And for me, it makes sense because, I can help fund that dream. Yeah. We help present structure and formation, and we can take an employee that is high value and turn them into an entrepreneur of sorts. And, we do a lot of that. We do a lot of that, from hierarchical systems and restructures to just corporate structure to, literally the way that the way that they think. You start to change the way that people think about these things. But what do I do now? I mean, Neil and I, we can't really talk about it, but we're in the middle of probably $20 million in, can I say that, in real estate deals. That's right. Yeah. It's vague. That's a vague.
Sure.
We got a lot of
redacted. I'll make beeps go over it.
Yeah. But we got a lot of projects going on. Real estate's is one of them. We're in the middle of several different major consulting contracts. We've got but for everything. We also can look at a business. Most people won't do this, and we can say, to bring this business to the point that we want it. Like for instance, let's look at this podcast. At the end of the day, it's still a business, right?
Yes.
It has costs associated with it. We didn't just get into it and then have a conversation like, oh, wow, this actually costs more than we thought. We actually projected out and knew exactly what it would cost well in advance. We get extremely creative. We are the architect. We can design whatever we want to design. So, if we, let's say we have a person. Let's take somebody out that's been in the corporate America for 40 years and they've got money they're sitting on, right? And even though they just lost 30 to 50% of the stock market, right? Yeah. They think that they would like to step out and they want to do something, right? And let's say they're sitting on millions of dollars, but they're worried. They don't want to quit their job. They don't want to retire. They want to enjoy life because they need $5,000 a month, or $10,000 a month, or $2,000 a month, whatever arbitrary number they think they need. So we have people like that we've worked with that we help design a solution that you can't guarantee anything, but with a fair degree of certainty we can predict about what the cash flow will be. And we try to be very conservative so that we would always hit that being the minimum floor. If the floor was $5,000, that'd be the minimum floor. And we can design something to help deploy those funds into something that generates that revenue for them, that accomplishes their goal. And if they would like, they can play as big or a little role in this thing, depending on their expertise and what they can bring to the table. And so it gives them something to do in quote-unquote retirement or a part-time investment. And it's something that potentially, we don't advertise for it, we don't market for it. These are all people we know, word-of-mouth referrals, but potentially could offer them either, you could say, a better return or a different type of return, and one that helps accomplish whatever their goals are, right? Gotcha. Most people, like if you came to me and said, hey, because I know you well, and you said, hey, Daniel, I've been saving this money, I've got $20,000, right? Most of the projects we take on are, at this point, I would say the lowest end is $1 to $5 million, right? But that being said, you came and said you had $20,000, $10,000, we would do it. Yeah. And we would say, well, what is your goal? What is your, and some of that's a reality check. Like, hey, I've got $10,000, I want to make $10,000 a week.
Yeah, right.
Well, there's a whole lot of things that got to happen to get to that $10,000 a week. Yeah, that might be like starting with $10,000. That might take.
The first thing is you got to get to
years.
$1 million.
Yeah. We got that would take years to build into, right? But again, any amount of money. We
can still probably do it.
Yeah, we could. I think we could do it. It's just math.
What's your guys' favorite cartoon character?
Oh, interesting.
Oh, goddamn. Darkwing Duck.
Oh,
Let's
nice
get
choice.
dangerous.
Nice choice.
Yeah, that is a good one.
That was my shit. And then now I'm gonna be real pissed at myself. Hold on.
Yeah, when
Your initial one, you're always regret.
when we talked about this, what I said was right off the top of my head, gun to my head, if I had to answer, I would just say Bugs Bunny because I know
Safe.
Safe, but I don't know if I could come up with that. I need some time to think about this one. You know what I mean?
I would have to say He-Man probably.
Oh, nice. All right.
Because I mean, if we're going back to childhood,
Yeah. All right. Fair
I grew
enough.
up in the '80s, so
Yeah.
it was all about superheroes, action heroes.
Yeah. Yeah.
so-
I would go. Yeah, I would go with some probably Cobra Commander or something like that would be good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, Darkwing.
Darkwing Ducks are
He
great.
was fucking people
So
up, man.
I was a Darkwing Duck fan.
Yeah.
Me too.
And then, I mean, Inspector Gadget was a little. I get irritated with that sometimes. And then, the
What
one I'm thinking
irritated
about.
you? What irritated you about Inspector?
the kid and the dog always had to save him. He
Penny.
couldn't do anything.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Penny. Yeah. But what is it? Hold on a second. He wrecks the airplanes all the time. And Scrooge is
Oh,
Yeah.
Launchpad McQuack.
Launchpad, right? What's
Oh,
the
yeah.
name of that?
DuckTales.
DuckTales.
I love DuckTales. That was a good one.
DuckTales was
Yeah.
probably like a close second for me.
And Tailspin was good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. So, I play poker every Friday night with a bunch of savages, and they did something about cuck chairs. If anybody whoever has a chair in their bedroom, that's a cuck chair. And then one guy was like, "Oh, my parents have a chair in the bedroom." He got all upset. But then Seth and I recorded a little jingle. We recorded Cucktails jingle, which was DuckTales but with cucks in it.
Let's go to a heavy one, right?
Yeah.
Let's do what's the lowest point in your life and what's the highest point in your life?
Lowest lows,
Lowest
highest
point
highs.
is probably. Well, I went through a period where, I was born into poverty. Like my family was very poor. Now, to be clear, my parents worked very hard. They were blue collar, but we just struggled, and we didn't have running water or, any of those niceties. It was. As a kid, though, I didn't really know any different, so it wasn't necessarily that difficult for me. It was just life. But as an adult, becoming very successful, I became a millionaire by the age of 27, and did very well, and then had many losses around 2013. Lost. A big company I was in business with went out of business, and then I had some other businesses that were struggling, having issues, and it was kind of a domino effect, and all these companies just became very unstable, and I sold a couple of them, lost some, and pretty much lost everything, and had to restart. Start over, and I lost my leg at the same time. So, I got married that year and lost my leg 2 months later in a really bad motorcycle accident, and that was very difficult. I remember losing my leg was probably the worst. It's got to be the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And I was fully conscious during the experience, during the accident. I was making a left-hand turn. I was talking to my buddy in his car, and then we were in a double left-hand turn lane, and I looked at the light turned green, and I looked at my friend. I was like, "I'll see you, man." And then I just went and didn't see this guy who was coming towards the intersection. He was behind other cars, and he was texting, and he looked up, and those cars in front of me. He swerved around the cars, and then my friend saw him coming, and he started beeping his horn, but it was too late because when I looked, I heard my friend's horn, and I looked to my right, and I saw the Cadillac emblem on the car, and I gassed the motorcycle, but it was too late. I was instantly in the air, and I remember thinking, I can't believe I just got hit by a car, and I could feel the G's, because my arms were just fully extended, and I was.
Had you ever felt anything like that?
No,
Before,
it was.
the weightlessness?
It actually felt pretty good.
Yeah.
It was like a weightless. I felt like I was like, wow, this is crazy, and time stops too. The time distortion was insane.
You're having so many thoughts all at the same time.
I felt like I was just up in the air forever. It was really peaceful. Like I hear the wind, you know, and I could see, you know, like the pavement and then cars and then sky and then and I flipped. I was flipping kind of slow too, which is strange. And I think I did 2 flips, and my friend said I was over 10 feet in the air. And fortunately, when I landed, I was face down, so I kind of like caught myself and landed really flat. And I was actually staring at the pavement when I was on the ground, and my helmet barely hit the pavement. It just scratched the shield a little bit. And I looked to my left, and I saw my motorcycle sliding and then bounce off the curb. It was a long ways away, and I kind of rolled over my left side. I had a backpack on, and I wiggled my fingers and toes to make sure I wasn't paralyzed, and I couldn't move my right foot. And I looked down, and I saw my right leg laid across my left leg, and then the bottom of my foot was facing me, and my toes were facing my body, and then my boot was gone. It was just a sock, and I could see like some bones sticking out of my pant leg. And I was like, whoa. And then I just screamed. Like it was like a horror. It was involuntary. And I yelled out about 2 or 3 times. And I was like, all right, stop. Just pull it together. Look away from it. Don't look at it. Just, you got to calm down or you're going to bleed to death. Just stay calm.
Was it pain or was it realization?
It was emotional pain. It was terror.
Of what happened.
Yeah. And I also like I remember like feeling when I tried to move my leg, I could just feel like the bones and stuff like grinding, and then I stopped moving, and then I looked away, and I remember seeing this lady like driving by really slow, looking down at me in horror, and then I said like this quick prayer, and then I was just late, and I was thinking of, you know, I have all these thoughts about my life and about, you know, is this could be it, because I was bleeding a lot, and I was like, where's Sean at? Like he was right beside me, and then but the guy that hit me kept going. He tried to run away, and my friend turned around in his car and chased him down, and then came back, and so probably right at a minute after the accident, I could hear Sean coming back to me. And he was yelling out the guy's license plate and telling people to call 911. And he got to me, and I was like, dude, he's like, what's hurt? What's hurt? I was like, my leg, you know, I need a tourniquet immediately. I'm going to bleed to death. And I was like, just see if you can get a belt or something. Yeah, because we had just left the gym. And it was leg day, by the way. I got a bit about it. But he got a belt from a guy, and I just told him to tie it around my quad here, and because nothing seemed damaged on that part of my leg, and he got the belt on my leg, and then about 3 minutes in, I started to feel really weird, like my arms and my other leg, my face were all tingly, like you get needles when you like your arm goes to sleep or something, and my tongue was like that. I was like, dude, I don't feel good. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it. You know, if I don't make it, just tell my wife I love her, and tell my friends and family I love them too, and tell them I tried, you know. And he's like, shut up, just keep talking to me, you're going to be fine. And I was like, well, I'm just saying, you know, I feel really weird.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're still a realist, right?
Yeah. And then, you know, 2 or 3 minutes later, I could hear the ambulance. And as soon as I started hearing the ambulance, Sean's like, hey, dude, I think the bleeding stopped. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, man, I don't see anything else coming out. And I immediately felt my body like stabilize. I could feel like I started getting my feeling back in my limbs, in my face, in my tongue, and I was like, yeah, dude, I feel better. Like I feel okay right now, and I think I'm gonna be all right. And I remember looking down at the trail of blood from me, like into the road, and it was probably like 50 feet. Like a 50-foot river of blood. It was unbelievable. I was like, how am I still alive if that came out of me? And but then, you know, the ambulance got there and they put the tourniquet on my leg. But I never lost consciousness, never felt incoherent or anything. I was, you know, fully conscious, fully coherent the whole time. They even talked to the police officer briefly, and then my wife came, and they put me in the ambulance, and my dad even called me when I was in the back of the ambulance, and I was like, "Oh, my phone still works." I didn't answer the phone, but I just told my mom, told my wife to call my parents.
Yeah. Shout out to OtterBox.
Yeah, but didn't even have an OtterBox. Actually, it was an OtterBox case. It was the less protective
Go
one.
to OtterBox, use promo code Creative
yeah.
Businessmen.
But anyway, they took me to the hospital and they airlifted me to Baptist, and finally took me back to the accident happened around 8 p.m. They took me to surgery. Actually, it was almost 9 p.m. They took me to surgery at about 11, and I woke up at about 3 in the morning, and they had actually, I expected my leg to be gone, but it was still there, and I was like, wow, they saved it. And my wife's like, don't get excited, it's not that good. But I could still actually move my toes a little bit, and they said 2 of the 3 major nerves are completely destroyed, and there's nothing they could do. They said they could probably save my leg, but it would take 2 years of reconstructive surgeries, and I'd be on pain medication the rest of my life. And I knew that wasn't a possibility. I was like, hey, is there going to be any kind of revolutionary science that could change this within the next 5 years or something? And she's like, no, I don't think so. I think that's your option. And I was like, well, she's like, I can give you 3 hours to think about it. That's the window we have to really have the best result with an amputation. I was like, I don't need to think about it. If that's my option, just go ahead and take it, and I'll figure it out. And because I can't be on pain medication the rest of my life, that'd ruin my life. I have too many responsibilities.
It goes to show the level of thought and thinking that to make that decision in that moment and not have to take that time. I would languish in that decision for all 3 hours. You know what I mean? And the fact that you can just make that decision.
It was the right choice. I've seen other people that made the other decision, and it was not a good outcome. Well, I know one guy that actually had a pretty good outcome with it, but his wasn't hurt as bad.
But
I've seen other people
for you that was the right decision?
Yeah, I'm sure it was the right decision. And but it was the amputation hurt way worse than the accident. Because the next day when I woke up, I was agonized. It was the worst pain I've ever experienced in my life. And that first 24 hours after the amputation it seemed like an eternity. Yeah, I would fall asleep because of the morphine they were giving me. And I'd wake up, I'd ask my wife how long I was asleep. She's like, oh, like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And it seemed like an hour.
Yeah. So some real time distortion.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was a nightmare.
And, we've talked about this personally, and one of the things that's always been an incredible takeaway for me is what came after that for you, how it affected your perspective and the way that you approach life. Talk about that a little bit?
It was one of the worst and best things that's happened to me.
Explain that to people.
So I really do miss my leg. It was a good leg. Don't take your legs for granted. They're really awesome. But because I lost my leg, and also I was going through all this hell with business stuff too, and it made me just sit back and reevaluate my life and my responsibilities and my family, and I got to spend a lot of quality time with my wife. Which was enjoyable. We never really. Before that, we would never really just sit in the bed and watch TV together or just sit around and hang out and spend hours together.
And this was a reason to do that because you had to.
Yeah, and I've always been so busy, and and Daniel's the same way. It's an entrepreneurial thing. Like it's easy for us to we enjoy working. So if we're working on a project, we can just obsess with that. We get obsessed with things, and I can work 100 hours a week on something and not even notice it.
Yeah.
And those years of my life, and I was young too, I had lots of energy, so I felt like years would go by and I wouldn't even notice those years. It was just they were just flying by. I was just like in warp speed through life.
Laser focus on your thing, and everything else just
nothing exists.
Dissolves. Yeah.
And I went through a previous marriage because of that too. Yeah. And it may have ruined, if this hadn't happened, maybe it would have ruined my marriage now.
Yeah, so you kind of take the good out of that.
Yeah, so I'm thankful for that.
That's it's wild to think that you tell the story you just tell, and then you end it with "I'm thankful for that." That's just not a thing a lot of people have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I personally, though, I thought that leg was a problem before he lost it.
I never liked it. I saw the way it looked at me.
Yeah,
That Cadillac looked very similar to Daniel's.
I did have a Cadillac at that point. I think it was white though. You said black. I think my Escalade was white.
I had a white Escalade at one time.
Maybe it was black on it at the time. I don't remember, but.
So all right, I mean, fucking thanks for sharing that. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
sure.
So that's low is low.
Start a business, don't lose your leg.
Yeah,
But also enjoy the moments.
Yeah.
Appreciate the moments.
it's fantastic. What about you, Daniel? If somebody was to ask you, life wise,
Well,
low is low.
Compared to the leg thing, and I think that gives perspective.
Sure.
Which if you can experience somebody else's pain or trauma and learn from it and apply it to your life, I think that's awesome. Yeah. And because it's kind of like an entrepreneur or a business person that has the experience, and you try to limit the losses of somebody new to the game. There's still gonna be losses, but you can kind of help. So apply those things. When we compare it, it's not the same. But I think for me, money has been such, and now it's not money, but at that time, money was such a driving force and a factor for me, and laser focus for sure. And I'd work. I mean, for 10 years straight, I've worked. The last 10 years, I've worked 100 hours a week. There is an exception. These last few weeks, I'm working more, but more efficiently.
Yeah.
And I have made more time. And right now, there's a massive focus on trying to make sure I spend time with my kids and my family and do those things and appreciate those moments. But that's fairly new for me. That's like in the last 3 or 4 weeks. But lowest low for me, which I've talked about before, was probably you have all these status symbol things that you think are important that you acquire when you think you're successful and you think this is what you're supposed to do. And I did it at a very, very early age. I think by 23, made my first. It was liquid net worth over $1 million, and by 25 was probably 10 times that. So,
Fucking show off, man.
Yeah. Well, let me
That
tell
was
you,
actually one of the questions we had. Was
the consistency, though.
I'm kidding, man.
Neil navigated his valley much better than I did.
yeah.
So I may have
Maybe.
maybe.
I don't know.
That's
I feel
another
like I
perspective.
should have made some different choices.
Yeah.
But
But I lost with the best of them because every single let's say it was 10 million. And I think it was a fictitious number. Let's say it was $10 million net worth. I lost all of that plus 2 million. So I mean, like, you're talking about a massive, massive swing. The reality is that I really wasn't worth what I thought I was. Everything in the world was inflated at the time, and I was heavily leveraged. And I believe in leverage in business and not as an individual. I think as an individual, I kind of follow Dave Ramsey's method. I'll be with Dave actually next week on the 23rd, starting the 22nd, 23rd. But I like Dave Ramsey's methods as an individual, not so much as a business. But it made me less leveraged as a business as a result of this, But at that time, I was extremely leveraged, and a lot of factors happened, many beyond my control. But I could have reacted to them differently. And I lost everything: the lake house, the cars, the boats, the toys, the things that I thought were of importance, and ended up at the time with wife and 2 kids in my parents' garage. What they call a 2-car, but more like a car and a half garage. Mm-hmm. And we took a window unit and put in the garage, and that was how we got heat and air. And I took part of the brother that just came in earlier and brought me my drink and interrupted us. My mom's favorite.
We're in that garage right now. That's where we're recording.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we're in that garage, and we cut carpet out of my lake level in my former house, and we laid that carpet over the concrete. And that's, we put our furniture on that, and that's where we lived, my wife and 2 kids for about 18 months. And while we were there, she got pregnant with, I did it on purpose, I'll be honest with you. We were just talking about this the other day. And she got pregnant with my now 6-year-old. He turned 6 yesterday. She got pregnant with Cam, and that was while we were living in. And we were joking about this. She was distraught. She was so worried. She could not believe it. She was mad at me. She could not believe it. And I let her know. I completely did it on purpose because there was this reality for me that, we had waited 9 years when we were together to have kids until I felt like financially it wouldn't affect me. And I was right. But what this showed me is that it's irrelevant when you have the kids, because just because you get financially healthy, it does not mean you'll stay that way. So when you have the kids is almost irrelevant to some extent. I mean, I think be able to support them, you should try to do that. But in that moment, I didn't care. I knew I wanted to have another child, and so I made that
executive decision.
That executive decision without consulting her. And, it is what it is. But we were joking about that the other day. So that was probably my lowest point, because I put so much value in those things that I had.
What's the lesson you take away from that?
For me, I learned. I'm still learning the lesson today. But
it's a good answer, by the way.
Yeah.
Should always be. Yeah.
Still learning the lesson. So I will tell you, I try to reflect regularly. I'm open to change and to considering other opinions. And so, I think the ability to work 100 hours a week, let's say most people say they work 40 and they're exhausted, and that's confusing to me. But what it probably is that those 40 hours are doing something that's like some mind-numbing task that they can't stand.
Something they don't enjoy. I mean, you guys
Yeah.
just said how much you love
Exactly.
the business and the art of the deal and all of that stuff.
So we have to – I love it so much that I rob from my family, right?
Yeah.
So, so that's something I've got to balance. But I think what I learned most from it was be careful with leverage. And leverage is, if you own a thing, do you own it if you owe someone else for it, right? Because really what that means is you have the right to use it while you make payments. And those payments are an obligation.
As long as you make payments.
As long as you make payments. And those payments are an obligation. And you have to understand that having that obligation creates a duty to generate revenue. And if you're an employee, that means that you're exchanging dollars for hours, okay? So just understand what it is you're committing to, right? You're exchanging your time today and future time for this item, the enjoyment of this item that you think is going to increase, it's going to provide some value in your life that you don't currently have. So understand what it is you're doing, right? You're exchanging future time to someone else in exchange for this item, right? You buy a jet ski and you finance it, and you're financing it for 5 years. Just realize you're going to work for 5 years to pay for the jet ski. And apply it to everything in your life. And I think it gives you some different perspective. So as an individual, I like to carry zero debt. As a business, we carry very limited leverage as needed. But pretty much everything we have, honestly, we own everything pretty much outright. I can't, no debt comes to mind.
Is that another takeaway?
That's a takeaway from this. So you want to lose everything. Let me tell you, another Dave Ramsey-ism. 100% of the people that get foreclosed on had a mortgage.
Right.
Right?
That's true.
You don't want to lose it. Own it for real. Yeah. Right? But I get it. There's a lot of things that prevent. There's some things, a home being one of them. If I had to tell you, I disagree. I don't think you should save for a home and rent the whole time. I don't agree with that principle because I can own the home for less than I can rent it for, right? So I would give you different advice, and I would tell you to buy the home. But we would have to have a really, really specific conversation about the type of home you're buying, where you're buying, et cetera. So I don't know. For me, that was the takeaway was, really think about what it is you're doing when you buy it, when you commit to buy something and you don't have the money to pay for it because you're financing it. That means you don't have the money to pay for it. What is that obligation, and what do you owe in return for that? How does that affect your family? And if your income was to cut drastically, could you keep the item?
Right.
Because if you can't keep the item, not only have you lost the item, you've lost all the time that you worked in exchange for those dollars that you paid.
This one is, what's your biggest takeaway from your first 100 episodes, and what are your hopes for the next 100 episodes?
I think it's kind of went as expected. I mean, we knew that no one knows who we are, so we knew it would take time to build this show. We always planned on producing other content, other shows. That's why we're partners with you on your show, and we've got Tom's show coming out soon.
Yep.
And
Tom Simmons, dumbest guy in the room.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun show.
Yeah.
And then and Tom's a great dude. He's a good, really talented comedian and writer.
Yeah.
Working on the Miss Pat show right now.
Yeah.
And we're also producing a comedy special that's going to be out soon.
Yeah. And
some cool sketches we've got coming up, and as as the studio grows and as our followers increase, and once this thing gets monetized, because it does cost a lot of money to run the studio, we'll bring in more staff. We'll clone Seth, and
Give me 2 more of them.
yeah,
2 more.
3 more, 3 more. But I'm happy with the way it's going. It's getting some traction.
Yeah, I think as planned. I mean, there's this there's the unique thing about things that I think are related to art, right? Like artistic. This is some level of art. Like,
yeah.
You can think you're very talented, but when you're trying to grab subscribers or followers or this or that, part of this is algorithms trying to put you in front of people. Part of it is what type of information you're talking about and how many people does that appeal to. So there's all these different factors, right? And so for me, I'm like, well, at its base, I understand the time, the limit, the financial commitment, and we did it regardless of income. If it makes no dollars, it doesn't bother me at all. And I looked at it more from, this is a path that we want to go down, from short films to long films to producing comedy specials to, Evan Williams doing the TikTok, doing some of his shots in there with the boxing steel. Yeah. Like all these things, I think of all the people that we've met that I would have never met otherwise, because my circle is really small. And I wasn't trying to meet people, just to be completely honest with you. So this has really opened up me to a lot of people I would have never had conversations with. And I think it's helped me grow as an individual, because there have been a lot of different perspectives on this show, which has been awesome. So I think it's went as I thought it would, and maybe better, because of I think it's enriched my life. And I think we've learned quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So
just that part of it's really worth it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. So what do I hope and look forward to? I don't know, man. On my side, I think what I look forward to is other people being in the spotlight, because I've always said I don't need recognition. I just want the reward. So the reward for me is for other people to do well when it comes to this. And Neil and I can just keep getting on here and enjoying as long as we're having conversations that I enjoy, I'm good. Yeah. Right? Because the only difference with what's going on right now is this being recorded. Neil and I, especially what happened today, this is very common for us. The type of conversation we had today on this show, this 100th episode, is actually really sincere, because that's what Neil and I do every day. Yeah. And I'm not just saying that.
Yeah, good.
Yep. So
I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Be sure to like and subscribe. Also, be sure to ask us any questions you want to ask us. We'll gladly answer those. It was fun. And we'll see you next time.
Later, guys.
Bye.
Have a good one.